Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Prashanto Kochavara. I'm the Director of Product at Trilio, spearheading the Kubernetes offering out here. A little bit about the company background. We've been around the block for about 8 to 9 years. We are not doing this for the first time. The Kubernetes offering is obviously a next generation product. We have been supporting data management for OpenStack and Red Hat Virtualization for a while, leaders in the space already. From a company composition perspective, employees all across the globe, customers all across the globe through multiple industry verticals, and all the technology that we build has been thoroughly vetted by a lot of industry leaders. So you can be very well assured that you're getting the best breed of technology into your data centers and into your infrastructures through Trilio. Now, I think what is important to begin with is to understand how folks are using Kubernetes, right? So I'm going to talk through the slide, drawing color on the developer side, which is on the left-hand side, and then on the operation side, which is on the right-hand side. And in the middle of the screen, where you see NS1, 2, and NSN, is you can assume these are Kubernetes clusters, whether it's for production, staging, test development, or whatever it may be. Now, at a very base level, we can talk about Lisa. Lisa, you can imagine her to be a developer. 80% of her time is going into writing, code, maybe in Python, Go, whatever it may be, language that she's using, and 80% of her time is code development. 20% is making sure that she understands how her microservice is going to run. Now, the way Lisa obviously works with her code is she stores all her code in Git, and then that same code, through the help of her SRE, which we'll jump into in a second, will be played or deployed into the cluster. Now, obviously, Lisa's responsibility is to develop the application, but she's also interested in ensuring that the application is, or the microservice is resilient, right? And in order to make sure it's resilient is making sure that she can test with a production copy of the data, right? So that she can increase the success of deploying into a different environment or different landscapes, whether it is test, staging, and production. Now, the way Lisa does this is obviously she's working with Brian. Now, Brian's main motto is to ensure that the applications or the microservices that have been deployed by Lisa and the Lisas of his organization, those microservices have the uptime, have all the telemetry access, and whatever it needs to run successfully within the environment. So obviously, Lisa and Brian kind of work together to ensure that the application is resilient, it's successfully deployed, making sure that it can be tested with production copies of the data, again, to making sure that you are delivering code more successfully out to your customers. Now, obviously, Brian is using the concept of GitOps. GitOps is where you basically store all your basically it's a combination of infrastructure as code and pull requests, right? So basically the GitOps paradigm says that anything that you do within your Kubernetes cluster should be handled via Git. All your YAML files, all your container images and everything, however they get triggered, should be through Git. And GitOps is the practice of taking or pointing to a Git repo and replaying everything into the cluster. So now looking at Lisa, Brian, we understand their challenges, testing with production data, ensure that the apps are continuously running, provide resiliency of their microservices as well. Now moving to the ops side of things, now we have Rob. You can assume Rob to be the player who is building the clusters for the development teams. Now, obviously, Rob can also be using GitOps. You can think of him as almost like an SRE on the operational side, but he's using GitOps to store all his infrastructure as code for deploying clusters within Git, and then using that to build his infra, which the team uses. Now, from Rob's point of view as well, he is concerned about things like uptime of the cluster, uptime of the applications running in the cluster, business continuity, and so on. Like, for example, if a disaster happens of the, and the entire cluster is not available, he does not want to talk to Lisa and Brian in the middle of the night and, figure out how to redeploy this app. He wants a simple, easy button to do so, right? When we think about Lisa and Brian, they are thinking about their individual microservices and they want, control over that. But now if you look at Rob, he's looking at the entire cluster and all these different development teams that are playing within it. Now, similarly, when we kind of build the slide out, move further right into more of the ops persona, we have Jane. And Jane, you can think of her as the IT director who is in charge of let's say cost, overall business continuity, you know migrations for whether it's performance reasons, cost reasons, all those activities are handled by Jane. And obviously, she's having a lens, making sure that the team is able to do this, the team is able to do this quickly and efficiently, so that the overall business is healthy and can function smoothly. So this, in a nutshell, is how folks are kind of interfacing with Kubernetes today. And one of the reasons, why Kubernetes is so popular, because it is definitely bridging the gap on the left and the right very, very well. Okay. So now, having spoken about the different needs or the challenges that users have, Trilio focuses on all these different items. We provide infrastructure resilience, we provide application migration mobility. There is governance and compliance through all of this that can be achieved. And then there are service level agreements, kind of like the SLAs that you can set across how all of this occurs within your data centers and within your cloud environments. Now, the way Trilio does this is through point-in-time orchestration, right? So the way we basically manage or interact with the Kubernetes system is that we focus on your applications. Now, whether your application is deployed via, could be just regular label-based YAML files, could be Helm charts, could be operators, could be entire namespaces. We allow you to take a point-in-time capture of all of that and then move that application or an entire namespace across different, within the same cluster or within across different clusters as well. So that is the innate or the underlying technology or the workflow that we use to make all those use cases. Talking from Jane, Brian, Rob, and Lisa. Looking at all those different requirements. This is the underlying piece that we do to make all those use cases possible. Now, when we think about the day zero aspect, double clicking on that, what we are able to do is, you may have your test landscapes and thinking again from the shoes of Lisa, hey, I have written some code. Upon code check-in, I'm going to have some CI tests, which are going to build my container image. But as part of those CI tests itself, Trilio, or as part of the CI and the CD process, in the CD process, Trilio can go and get that production environment or the production data, stage it into different environments for you, so that by the time you are ready to, by the time your container images are ready, you are testing with a more recent copy of your business, right? So this will automatically help you increase the success rate of your application deploying. You can get code out to your customers faster, and overall resulting in better customer experience, better maintenance of your own software, and overall increased revenue. Coming to the day one aspect of it, now when we talk about day one is assuming that, hey, you have built your microservice, you have created it's running in your environment, and now you're using tools like GitOps and similar Kubernetes-based applications to manage state, to kind of have more event-driven functionality in case certain things change. Now, obviously, Trilio, being an application-centric product, can not only protect your GitOps tools and all the other infrastructure-related tools that you have, whether it is for observability, for tracing. Trilio can protect all of that. It can also be event-driven. So the entire technology is API driven. It's a Kubernetes native solution, Trilio Vault. So you can actually have it event driven, so that in case you see YAML files changing, or in case you see certain events happening, and you have to capture that from a compliance perspective, especially if you're in the machine learning and artificial intelligence field, Trilio can do that for you. So as and when things happen, things change, and you want to keep a record of that, we can store those records for you. We can capture your drifts for you. As basically event-driven drift capture can also be done, and then obviously creating doing a forensic evaluation, creating test environments to understand security-related issues with your applications. All those can be achieved as well. And then finally, from a day two perspective, this is what all of us are much more familiar with. You have one Kubernetes cluster. We are showing a SUSE Rancher cluster here. You can have a K3s being resilient, or in case the K3s cluster fails, you can move applications onto the RKE cluster. And likewise, back to the cloud. So the core to edge to cloud process, or the resilient architecture, can be maintained with Trilio directly. And again, these infrastructures could be using different kind of compute engines, could be using different kind of networking topologies, or data storage mechanisms. But Trilio has all of that covered for you, and enables seamless disaster recovery from one Kubernetes cluster into another, and seamless migration of your applications from one environment to another as well. Okay, and then coming to the the use case that wraps everything around perfectly is the security use case. Now, obviously, our security use case is not in terms of doing scanning your scanning your YAML files and everything from the time you're deploying it from a DevSecOps, but this is also a important piece to protect against things like ransomware. And the kind of capability, or the mantra that we are following, is in terms of identifying and protecting, detecting and mitigating, and recovering from ransomware. Now, this theme, why you should believe us, is because it's not our word. It is a framework that we have aligned with from NIST. NIST is the cybersecurity National Institute of Cybersecurity frameworks, with a lot of knowledge, a lot of years of experience in building security best practices, and that is what we are following. So from a ransomware or security perspective, we allow you to identify your different applications, your different artifacts that you're running within your cluster. We make sure that we tell you that, hey, these are the ones which are protected, these are the ones which is not protected, so that you have a good understanding of your own inventory. Our product itself is validated, as I mentioned earlier, through multiple different sources about how we've built it. We ourselves are using the best security practices. Ours is not in the previous segment we talked, it was mentioned around the issues with open source code and security aspects of it. Not to say it is always going to be a security problem, but open source code, you could have your code out anywhere, and people may misuse that. So I completely agree with that, and you need the security validations to ensure that that is not the case. And it's a proprietary solution like Trilio puts its best foot forward to make sure that is the case. Immutable backups, role-based access control, encryption, making sure that only authorized users can access the system, making sure that your backups can't be deleted, and even if your backups are compromised, no one can read them and hold you ransom. All these pieces are part of the identifying and protecting from the get-go, even before your ransomware attack happens. Detection. Now, from the detection front, what Trilio is going to be providing is detection of abnormal events. Assume a ransomware malicious user is in your infrastructure. He is going to try and firstly delete your backups, because everyone knows that backups is the main kind of level that you go to restore your business. So they're going to try to delete your backups. If we notice multiple delete attempts, we will flag those. If we notice, that your backup size is changing drastically, your incremental backup size, if there was, 1 gig of incremental backup, 1 gig of incremental backup, and suddenly it becomes 20 gigs, that could also spark an event for us saying that, hey, maybe data will start getting encrypted, not through Trilio. So it could be an abnormal event there as well. Malware scanning, we store our backups in an open format. So we will be scanning our backups for malware and ransomware kind of pieces, and along with that, we also store the configuration YAML files. So we will again, look at the configuration YAML files and let you know that, hey, everything looks to be good or not. Why is this important? GitOps and everything is good, but when you are troubleshooting your Kubernetes clusters, you tend to manually make changes to your YAML files. And if at all you forget to, change that or resync that to what your Git process was, you still want to capture and understand, hey, there was a drift over here and something could be compromised, or you probably gave it admin privileges to troubleshoot something but never probably set it back. So all those pieces also will be handled by Trilio. And then finally, from a recoverability perspective, most of these items are already available. Deep logging to understand when something went wrong, isolation testing to basically take a clean backup, test it in a different environment, entire workflow to do disaster recovery, click off a button to take all your applications or point-in-time captures of your applications and then restore it. And then finally, we have the option of creating multiple backup repositories. So even if one of your backup repositories gets compromised, you can fall back on your other repositories to restore. And these are not just multiple copies of the data, it's different protocols. So we support S3 and NFS protocols for storing your captures, and that is what we will that is what you can basically create multiple copies of, so that in case one gets compromised, you still have the other one. Okay, now use case evolution, as we said, backup and recovery, disaster recovery, migration, ransomware. From a day two perspective, everyone is very, very aware of why this is needed, why this is important. And especially if you look at the Kubernetes numbers right now, if you look at the CNCF survey data from a year ago, it said that about 78 to 80% are using data and data related applications within Kubernetes. So now with that, we have the capability of doing and supporting day zero data management use cases as well. This is almost on the lines of copy test data management, where you are able to test rapidly with your production pieces of data. And it's not only just testing with the production data, but we also have capabilities to anonymize the data when you bring it from your prod environment into your dev and test, because compliance reasons may say that you cannot bring sensitive data into your internal infrastructures. And then finally, the day one aspect of it, when you are using tools like GitOps, or if you're trying to, again, from a monitoring perspective, trying to track how your compliance needs are being met, in case your application YAMLs are being changed out of band, capturing those drifts, making it event driven, creating sandbox for forensic reasons. You can do all of that through Trilio as well. So whether it is day zero, day one, day two, Trilio has you covered for all your data management needs, and you can wrap all of these around with ransomware as well. So now, that's it from my side with slides. And if you want more information, and we invite you to our website, trilio.io, where we have a lot of different videos that demonstrate all these different use cases that I was talking about. And you can obviously download a free or a basic version of the product as well, which is free for an unlimited amount of time, or free for unlimited usage, but for a limited amount of time. And obviously there's the enterprise version as well. But please do try it out, and reach out to us if you have any questions.